Hey, it's Mike Hishon, and I'm back again. And if you have a few minutes, I want to tell you a story about how my uncle, who was an engine builder, extremely brilliant man, could build race car engines, and how that directly related to how I created a system called power blocks, blocking out your day and repeating a process. I'm going to tell you how his engine building helped me change my life. It helped me change my career path. It helped me change everything. So pay attention. Pay attention. Back in the 1960s, my uncle bought a 1939 Willys. Now, if you know anything about old vintage nostalgia cars, this is quite the machine. This car can go 8 seconds down a quarter-mile track, 300, 400 plus miles an hour. It moves. But he could build these engines that could create this type of horsepower, that could create this type of combustion. And he would literally manufacture them himself. And I could hear him telling his other brothers, my uncles, my father, about this process. And not only would he tell them about it, but they would discuss it, and they were talking about fuel ratio. They were talking about the air. They were talking about all the external elements that would stop this motor from outputting its very best. Okay? They would talk about the fuel. They would talk about the air. They would talk about the timing. And you might be thinking, what does this have to do with inspiring change within a workplace? But it has everything to do with inspiring change within yourself, and you being a part of a workplace, whether or not you're an employee, an owner, whether or not you're an entrepreneur. It matters. This process matters because you, now don't go crazy on me here, but you, much like that machine, much like that engine that my uncle was building, you are the greatest machine ever created. Think about this for a second. Everything that you input has a direct result on what you can output. So here was my theory, because we have to put this into practice. My theory was that I was going to be present with my thoughts. My thought was that I would be present with everything that I took into my body, everything that I inputted into my system. I would then decide whether or not my body reacted positively or negatively towards that either a situation, that person, that food, whatever it was. I started to look at the machine and how it reacted. So when I would eat a great breakfast, I would note what I had ate, and then I would repeat that. I noticed that within power blocks, that if you block out your day, if you write down exactly what you were going to do the next day, the night before, and block out your day. For example, I get up at 3:55 every morning and I work till 7 a.m. sharp on my big to-do. Eating that big frog first. I'm sure you've heard that analogy before. But we take care of the big projects first. But the secret, the magic, is the non-negotiable ending. The 7 a.m. If you work on your big projects, but set a block and don't work past that block, what it does is create urgency for the next day. It creates a sense of urgency, that want to get back and work at it. And what it also does, for anybody who has ever watched a football game, is it puts an end to the process. Do you remember last year? Kansas City Chiefs down in almost every playoff game, but in the fourth quarter, somehow Mahomes comes back and manages to steal it back, steal victory. Because when there's an urgency, an end, a timeline, a stop, your focus increases. This is why we block it out. So if you block out your day and you prepare the night before, you can, one, alleviate any anxiety that you're feeling about the upcoming workday. It gets everything out and onto paper. And then when you insert these non-negotiable ends, these 3:55 to 7 a.m. blocks, the 7 to 8 a.m. blocks, the 8 to 10 blocks, and you don't work past those blocks, it creates a rhythm and flow that can be repeated, that creates massive movement that can inspire change. You inspire change by just simply following a simple, structured process. It's just a flow. There is a flow that you can ride that only a small, simple few know about. I'm letting you in on this big secret. Write down what you're going to do the night before. Write down your entire next day. Block it out with non-negotiable endings. Power block your day and watch what happens. Okay? Okay. I had to tell you why this simple structured process would work. I had to tell you why. Why is it important? Well, your body is much like that engine, much like the pistons going up and down. They're following a rhythmic flow. If they were out of rhythm, a piston would shoot out of my uncle's engine, right out of the hood. Everything has a flow to it. Every machine follows a timing process. Find your timing by being present with everything that comes into your system. Make sure that it's pushing you forward. Make sure that you know exactly how you feel. Make sure you know exactly what you feel and how it makes you feel. Bring in the good, get rid of the bad, and you will see massive movement in your day. Okay? All right. I guess we're gonna do a 30-minute Q&A. We'll see. We'll see. But if you have any questions about this, I'd love to chat. This is a process that has helped me take my business, my family, my fitness levels right through the roof. Just by following a simple process that you can just install into your day and reap the benefits. Talk soon.
Okay, so that's Mike Hishon, and we will see if he joins us today. So as I mentioned just before at the end of the top of the hour, we have Mike Hishon joining us today. He's a motivational speaker, owner of a marketing promotional company, entrepreneur, fitness guru. And if you've been tuning in all week, we've been playing a short 2-minute clip about Mike leading into a lot of our presentations. And the reason why we love Mike so much is just the energy, the passion, his messages, because we all find it's relatable. So we wanted to ask him to participate in one of these mini breakout sessions as in a Q&A format. And we're going to see if Mike can share his screen here and make sure he's here.
Hey, Jer, how are you, man?
Good, yourself?
I am excellent. I am here. Me
Yay.
and Tiger.
Nice. Attaboy. Hey, I'm wearing my Sunday Reds too.
There you go, right? You got to win, baby.
Well, so thanks for coming, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you having here. And again, love the messaging, you know, and how you related it. First question is, did you ever get to drive that car?
No, actually, I got a ride in it once. It doesn't really have a passenger seat, right? Like it's got a roll cage and everything. It's not like you can drive this thing on the street. It's you could even Google it, like literally type in Hishon Brothers Racing and you can see this pitch. It's a wild machine. But no, I had no interest in driving it. I like golf, things that are safe. You know?
2 feet on the ground.
That's right, 2 feet on the ground. You know, yeah. burning rubber is not, what this, that's not a smell that I usually like to take in every day.
So we're lucky to have Mike on the show today. We're gonna have like a 20-minute Q&A session now. And if anyone for viewers at home watching, just keep submitting your questions and we'll go through them here. I have a command center here passing the questions up to me. But the first thing I want to ask Mike, because you and I spoke a little bit before we had this meeting here today, and I am a big fan of the big frog concept. But when I was sharing that with the command center team here, they hadn't heard of it. So I was hoping you could actually maybe tell people, what is the big frog concept? What the heck does that mean?
Well, the big frog concept to me is much like, it's just essentially, it's simply taking care of that number one to do first. It's taking the biggest issue that you have on a day-to-day basis, and that can change from day to day, depending on what you're doing. But it's a matter of attacking it with vengeance. Initially, it's the first thing that you do, because procrastination is the enemy of progress. It is something that holds us back. It's paralysis by analysis, right? It's that thing that stops us. And it's not only business, it's throughout your entire life. It's one of these things that creates anxiety. It creates a lot of stress, and we do this to ourselves. And this process is just a matter of leveling up and saying, I know that I have to do this. This is the biggest part of my day. And if I attack it first and don't put it aside and don't wait and don't put it off, then my days will be better by just, taking that big bite first, by annihilating and eliminating the biggest part of your day creates a sense of ease throughout the rest of your day. If you put that into practice over time, right? You can do it maybe once and you would think, oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Big deal. But if you do it repeatedly over time, day after day after day after day, much like a machine, then things become easier day after day after day. You start to follow your flow. You start to find that process, that flow that helps you essentially just create massive movement by just following a simple process, which is just taking care of that big issue first, eliminating it from your day, and knowing that if you don't get it done in the certain amount of time that you have set forth, because a lot of projects take multiple days, it's knowing that you're going to come back to that block, and we'll talk about this after, and get it done the following day. It's all a matter of structuring in your day so that you know that you're going to get back to something. It alleviates any anxiety or stress that you have about getting back to that project, because you have set up the parameters in which you're going to follow, and then you just follow it. And it's very simple and very easy. And once you catch on to the process, it's really simple. It's really simple. So, because I heard you talking before, and I had heard you say that you struggle with anxiety. Well, I am the ultimate anxiety. I struggled with anxiety, and it went straight from like passing out twice. Right. This is my story, which it starts September 1st, 2004. When I first had a massive anxiety attack in Boston and Fenway in front of my friends, passed out cold in Fenway Park. And it ended on December 24th when I was struggling with anxiety and had my absolute rock bottom moment and was self-medicating and passed out. And that's what started the change. So for 4,500 days, 4,497 days, I struggled mightily from 2004 to 2016 with anxiety because I didn't know how to deal with it. So
yeah, thank you for sharing that. Because that's where a lot of people, like, you have so much energy, you're such a positive person, to understand where people, whether it's rock bottom or what is that moment where people know, hey, I have to make a change within myself, or shit's going to get bad real fast. And again, blacking out, stuff can't be much worse than that, obviously.
No, things are not worse than that. And it's one of these things, right? It's not like anybody takes it on and says, hey, I'm going to just totally destroy my life. Nobody does that. But it's a part of the process that just keeps on landsliding if you are not present about what your actions are. Because you and I, we can sit there, and whether or not it's your family, it's your wife, it's your kids, they're around you every day, and they see a process, and but they see you every day, so they don't see the slide as much as, say, somebody sees somebody slide from, let's say for me, I come into an office space where there's 90 plus people in here. There was some dramatic weight increases on people in here, and it has to do with stress levels and COVID. But what I'm saying is that I didn't see people for 6 months. So when you have that break, and all of a sudden it's like you went from A to B, a lot of people don't see that when they're around you every day. You don't see the landslide or the lapse or anything like that, right? We don't make that tire connection. But when you don't see anybody for a while, and then you see, what happens, it really starts to snowball, good or bad, depending on your actions, really. And it's just a matter of taking note of what you're doing, and we'll get into that, being present about how your body's reacting to certain situations, who you're hanging around with, what you're eating, all of these things, your environment, all of these different things come into factor.
So let's just jump into that right now, because again, I've told you about some of my own struggles and the foods I eat and how I feel. I know you're a huge advocate of watching the machine being ourselves, right?
Yep.
And what sort of fuel or oil we're putting into it. Do you want to touch on that a little bit, about how someone like all of our viewers can get in tune with what Jeremy needs to be a better person, or to conquer my days, and how does Mike, and because we're all going to be different. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure. Well, a great way to conquer your day, okay, and whether or not it's food or your business or your family, is to break it down. Okay. So in my discussion before, I had said, I like to break things down or create analogies in which people can understand. You can break things down into your days. A lot of people, the problem lies is that we don't give ourselves enough credit when we do something great. A lot of the times we are our own worst critics. Can you agree with me on that? We always seem to pick ourselves apart. We always have good things to think about. Like, I could say a million great things about you, but to find something great to say about myself is always a little tougher. We always find it tough to give ourselves credit. Would you not agree with that?
Absolutely. I hate that I'm wearing red with my red face and my red hair.
Yeah. And I love you. And, and it's like, and you know what I mean? So we're sitting there, and I started to look at my life, and I started saying, I'm pretty damn tough on myself. No, there's no worse critic than me. Why don't I start looking at the small positive things that I am doing to try to balance out the sheet? You know what I mean? To try to balance out the worksheet there, as far as the good and the bad. And I started to realize that, hell, I'm doing a lot of great things here. And in fact, I'm actually doing a lot more better things than what I'm doing wrong or incorrect. But I'm focusing on the incorrect and not the correct. So when I would look at my breakfast, I started to literally, like, I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee, and I'm a big fan of taking things in and seeing how your body reacts. So when I would eat 4 eggs and a banana with peanut butter smothered all over it, I would feel light, but I would feel full. And because I'm taking in a dense carb, like, you know what I mean, with a banana and peanut butter, but I'm getting in great carbs, some great fats, and great protein. And my body would react, and I would feel energetic, and I would feel like I was creative. And I thought, well, that's a lot better reaction than I have to when I eat bacon, or when I eat cereal, or when I eat. So why don't I just not eat that, and I'll just stick to this? So I'm going to stick to this food group, because I know it's a great food group that's repeating, and it's really, really working for me. Then I would start to dial in my lunch, and I'd start to do the same process, and I would look at it and pick it apart and say, okay, when I eat this, and this, and I'm not saying I eat 1 or 2 things. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm just eating one food group for the rest of my life because I know it works. No, I would find multiple areas in a balanced diet that would keep me I would be hydrated, I would be full. All of the food groups were being taken care of, and I was eating properly. But it was always looking at it, breaking it down, and saying, this propels me further, this pushes me back. I'm going to get rid of this. And then once you start to do that over time, you start to create something that is literally unstoppable, because you start to filter out everything that is bad, almost everything that is bad. And you start to become a machine. You start to become just, it's just rhythmic, and your body knows what's coming, and you can, it takes away any type of thought process. It's why I wear gray t-shirts and jeans, or a black hat or a black shirt. It's the same thing. I try to take away all the thought process. I don't want to think about what I have to get dressed, or how I don't want to pick out socks and stuff in the morning. No, I just want to go. So I like removing and filtering and going narrow and deep with all of my process and thoughts, which is my gym, my business, my food, my family. It's just go narrow and deep.
So I've been working from home now since basically middle of March. And I think I wore jeans twice during that 8-month span. I was comfy in joggers. I was still killing my days, walking my kid to school in my joggers, because I was using that as my exercise. So I don't care, I have to dress up somewhat to be on camera today, to be somewhat polished. But what I want to talk about here now is when you talk about your power blocks and blocking out your day. And we know, and there's one of the comments already popped up here about, we know you get up at 3:57 or 3:55 every day.
Yep.
And it seems like a lot of successful people get up earlier in the day. Yes. And for someone like me, I've got 2 young kids, and it's like, that's the last thing that I want to do. But I know you're not saying that works for everyone. But when you talk about power blocks and getting into a schedule, like a set schedule, this is what you and I talked about the other night, is getting your machine into that routine so that you can perform better. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I had touched on this before in this video. Every machine follows a timing, and it follows a flow, and just right from a piston that has to move in an engine at the exact same, everything likes to be timing, and your body is no different, right? The time in which you go to bed is not as important as the time in which you get up, because it sets your timing for the day, right? It sets everything up for success. Your routine starts with a repeated process in the morning. So even if you're out late, I suggest that you get up at the exact same time and try to maybe find some time in the afternoon, maybe to have, 40 winks or something like that. But it's one of these things, right? Where it's like, the most important thing is that you get up every day. And the second most important thing is that you put a non-negotiable end to that time, whatever you're working on. It doesn't have to be 3:55 to 7. It could be 6:30 in the morning until 8, right? You just have to find your blocks, your magic time. Because when we find, and when I say magic time, that is right out of my coach's mouth, who is Craig Ballantyne, who came up with creating a magic time. And what happens is that you start to compound these good behaviors, and you start to literally compress and start to pick up your speed in everything that you do, especially if you're repeating it day after day after day. So let's say you're taking care of that big to-do each and every day in the exact same time slot. Well, you know that it's just rhythmic, right? We all know that we get into a process where you get up, you do this. Most people get up, go to the bathroom, right? Or they get up. If you think about your day, people follow the exact same steps almost every single day, whether it's good or bad. You're just following a routine. A lot of people, I like to think that a lot of people follow routines poor, especially on the weekends when you see a lot of people struggle, simply because the fact that a lot of us had parents who would work a Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday, and we'd all have like pizza and Friday, or like we'd have like a movie night or a pizza night on Friday, or you'd go out with your family or whatever. And that signals the end of the week, right? It would signal the end of the work week, but a lot of people think it's just the end of everything and they just let it go, right? It's just the end of I can drink and I can eat whatever I want. And no. That's not what we do. But we see a lot of these behaviors from past experiences. And again, when it comes down to power blocking, it's a matter of just putting non-negotiable ends to those blocks. As soon as that time comes up, you move to the next project. And the beauty of it is at the end of your workday, always leave about 30 minutes that you can fill out your next day. You take the last 30 minutes within your day, you block that out to create your next perfect day. What this does is that it relieves the stress and the thoughts and everything else that when you go home and your kids are calling for, calling at you and your wife is asking you to do something and you're still thinking about sending that email or whatever later on, or God, John's going to kill me because of whatever, right? That takes that right out of the equation because you're going to deal with John or whoever email at whatever block. This is about creating clarity within your head. It's about, and I keep on saying narrow and deep. Do you remember consumers? Remember consumers, the old store consumers? You'd go in there with your mom or dad. You'd go to the front counter, you'd fill out a box and they'd go to the back and they'd come out front and they'd say, we don't have it. They did it every time. They had way too many offerings and no stock, right? The truth is that they should have had 4 products and had 1 million of each, and then everybody would have been happy. And that's why consumers doesn't exist anymore. But the truth is that if you do this with your food, your nutrition, your family, go narrow and deep with your business, with your stock, with everything, find out what works for you and then stock it full. I mean, like your fridge, everything, then your life gets easier. Remove things. Everybody thinks that to succeed and to go do that next level, you have to add something. No, you have to remove almost everything that you're doing. It's like Costanza. Whatever your body tells you, your mind tells you to do the exact opposite. I'm just kidding with that, but it's true. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to it. So,
like for me, and again, just with I'm a constant thinker, over analyzing things, and for me, the reason why I call it my data dump. At the end of my day, I'm jotting down everything that is my big frogs for the following day, or my biggest frog, and all my key tasks, and I'm jotting down my priority. But if I don't do that today for tomorrow, I'm thinking about it during my sleep, and I can't turn off my brain. So this is where so with the power blocks and really knowing how I function, if I don't data dump and plan out my next day, I'm stressing about it and I'm just playing through. So a lot of people will say, have that sheet of paper on your bedside table. If you have ideas in your head, get them out of your head so that now you can forget about it and move on with actually focusing on sleep or whatever. So
absolutely. And I would go one further. And that's what I said. Take that last 30 minutes of your day, power block your day. You're going to have the time because your day is going to start to compress. And believe me, you're going to start to create massive movement because of this process. You will have time at the end of the day. Make it non-negotiable, write out your next day. And before you go to bed, have a piece of paper there sitting on your bed. But the best thing you can do is write down 3 things that you're grateful for from that day. This is going to help you sleep, and it's going to help you wake up with a lot of getty up, go in the morning. You're going to feel motivated. You're going to feel inspired because you're grateful. You're full of gratitude. I'm grateful for the fact that I was able to come here today. I'm grateful for the fact that I have the ability to be my own boss. I am grateful for the fact I have 2 beautiful sons and a beautiful wife. And I'm grateful for the fact that every day that I figured out how to handle, like, it's not like I'm cured from anxiety. I still deal with it every day, but I figured out ways, and I'm grateful for the fact that I know that as long as I keep on showing up and as long as I keep on doubling down on these good habits, that this anxiety, I own it and it doesn't own me.
Thank you. So we've plowed through this 20 minutes, 25 minutes really quickly. So I do want to get to this one last question, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's a really good one. So there's 2 questions, but I'm going to kind of combine them together for those following along at home. But so say if someone has no structure right now, and again, many of us have gone through this. So there's no structure. We feel stuck. We have no wire inspiration when we're getting up in the morning. And it feels like we all know the Bill Murray movie Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
So if I have no structure, I'm lacking that inspiration or my own personal why. Like, how can people make a change today?
Well, the truth is that you just got to believe in you and you got to bet on you. And I know that sounds simple. And I know that just sounds blah, blah, blah. It's easy. Oh yeah. But the truth is that you got to bet on you because believe me, others are betting against you, and others are stuck and sad and jealous and anxious, and this world has turned in the last 8 months has turned people upside down. And not a lot of people are in a growth state of mind right now. That mindset of growth is not currently happening for a lot of people. So the world's going to bet against you, but you simply have to go all in. I'm just going to read this here because I wrote it down and I think it's important.
So that might be one of the technical difficulties that we're possibly going to be having. So I think he's just like, because Mike's a motivational speaker, I think he was building us up to come back with something even bigger, right? So what we'll do is, I think we'll probably cut it off there. And what I'll do is I'll talk to Mike after. We'll probably get him to recap that last thought, because I think it's probably going to be something juicy. So he's just always a showman. Oh, got to watch you, Hishon. So, but that's the end of our Q&A session for today. We're going to be back here again in 15 minutes with our next speaker, which is Dr. Jonathan David. So looking forward to